Well, hello. Yes, I'm going to rave about powder coat again. This is an intake manifold that a friend of mine gave me that was in his boat that he had a fire in. And the manifold, as you can see, is pretty well burned up. There's no real damage to it, but obviously the finish is destroyed. It was a Merc Cruiser, so that it was black. But I mean, it's just... Now there was other problems with it, and I mean, water is terrible on aluminum, so it's all corroded. So what I'm going to try to do is clean it up a little bit and see if you can still use it. So I thought you'd like to come along and see what happens. Alright, first step is to put it in the sandblaster and see what we can do with it.
Now I know it appears that this is coming off quickly and easily. However, the recording has been sped up 12 times. This took quite some time and it was really difficult.
So a little while later, we have two intake manifolds off of inboard Merc Cruisers that were burned up that look pretty good. Now what's interesting about these intake manifolds is the water really chews them up. Look at that groove for the thermostat, and the same thing here where the water flowed through the water jacket. It even gets the surface of the intake manifold where no water goes. Now I don't know how it corrodes this, but I understand that. So now we go on to making them look really pretty, but certainly they're a lot better than what they were. Okay. Next step in making these things look pretty is to outgas it. Now what outgassing does is in the casting process, little air bubbles get trapped in the casting. And by bringing them up to 450 degrees, 50 degrees hotter than what we're going to powder coat, and maybe in this case it's not necessary because they were on fire. By bringing them to 450 degrees, the air bubbles tend to get out, so you don't get bubbles in the powder coat. So that's what we're going to do. So 450 degrees for 45 minutes. I'll see you in a little bit. They've cooled off. And now what we have to do is prepare them for powder coat. And the way we got to prepare them is we got to protect everything we don't want powder coat to get on. So the first thing is the bottom side. Now, there's some discussions on what you should do. Some people say you should powder coat this, the area that's in the valley of the engine, because it helps with oil to wick off. But in the Rochester area, people are a little conservative, so we haven't got to that point yet. So we cover the whole thing. Now this tape is good to 450 degrees. Unfortunately, it doesn't stay stuck in the oven. It falls off. So you got to do this twice. Well, you really don't have to do it twice. I do it twice because I put a coat of clear on. You know, if I was a guy trying to make some money at this, I wouldn't do the coat of clear because it's an extra step. but because I'm just doing it because I like doing it and like making the best presentation I can, I put a coat of clear on afterwards, and that really makes the color much deeper. So we'll get this tape on. Now it'd be nice if I could just leave the tape hang off like that. The problem is that gives a ledge for the powder coat to sit on, and I end up with a lip. So what we gotta do is trim it off. And the best way I've found to do that is with a nice sharp razor blade. The edge is there somewhere. And it seems to be better if you have a lot overhanging versus a little overhanging. This tape develops a static charge and sticks to itself. Speaking of static charges, contrary to what you would do when you're painting, what you don't want to do is blow it off right before you do it, because blowing across the surface creates a static charge. Just like rubbing a balloon on your head, and you can stick it to a wall. If you blow air across the surface of an object, it pulls electrons off the surface and gives a static charge to it. And powder coat is an electrostatic process, so that you want to avoid that. On my website is a 101 on powder coat. If you're interested, you can read it. Lots of little things and tips and tricks there. Now I stick this to the table so that I don't end up with little pieces floating around and stuck to the intake manifold, so it covers up where I want things to be powder coated. I have had that happen. Then you got to redo the whole piece. You can recoat powder. Nice sharp razor blade really makes a difference. Now I showed you the damage that water causes intakes. So what he's asked me to do is to coat the inside of the passage with powder. So I got to cut out that opening. And I got to be careful not to put too much in there because it'll fill the threads. So I just put a little in. So there's one. It just water goes through there. Okay, so we got the bottom side done. Oops, I can see a hole. Hole covered. Alright. Now, cover this. Now, got a fitting that goes in there. I use these sacrificial fittings, so you just screw them in, it protects the threads. You use them over and over again. Got another one right there. Now, this is a little more difficult. We got recesses here, and we gotta tape those. So I just run a piece of tape over the top and tape it as firmly as I can and as flatly as I can. And this tape doesn't flex at all. So you got to get it perfectly flat. And then a nice sharp razor blade and cut around a hole. And then just push it down. And hopefully we covered it. Now I didn't get that area right there. It probably really doesn't make any difference. It's probably just a gasket that sits in there. But we'll add another piece. Okay, so that covers that up real nice. Now we got another one to do. Alright, that'll work. I'll get another thread. And then what I do is I put a cross cut in here. And then I use these coat hangers, which I make. And it's got a little hook in it, so that when I go through here like this, I can hook it right to itself, and that's not going to fall due to weight. Okay, let me reposition this camera. So, another little trick is this is a little high, so I can't see. So what I do is I just lower it a little bit so that I can see. And now electrostatic, so you got to ground it like so.
I didn't explain how I lowered the intake manifolds. What I do is I make up little pieces of hanger with hooks on either end, and I put one hook on the top hanging from the beam and another hook that the intake hangs from, and that lowers the intake manifold by about 4 inches.
So I did two things right at the end there. Right at the end I blew air across the bottom rail, and that's because the powder tends to fall there and collect. So I blow the excess out and then just recoat that area. And the other thing is I blew air into those water passages so that they will have a coat of powder on them, and hopefully protect them a little bit better from the water. Now I have found that these needle nose channel locks provide really nice handles for carrying these intake manifolds. The other thing is I preheated the oven because these are big pieces and I want to put them into a hot oven. Now they're in the oven. Let them go for an hour because they've got to get up to temperature. You want the whole piece to come up to temperature, not just the surface, and that's what really cures the powder. So we're at set for 400. That's a 45-minute clock. That's a 45-minute clock, but I'll let it run an hour. Okay, we just wait, and they'll look a lot nicer when they come out. We're trying a light to see if my face can be taken out of the shadow. And I'm not really sure how to do that to make it better. And as you can see, this gets shrunk in the oven so it comes off, so we got to redo it.
So the light I tried was a snap-on LED work light, and it is very bright. It doesn't seem to have done much. If anybody has a suggestion on how to light my face so it's not in the shadow when I work on the end of this workbench, I'd appreciate that input. What's happening here is I'm using a razor blade to cut away the excess tape that's on the bottom of the intake manifold so that powder doesn't build up on the lip. A very sharp razor blade really makes a difference, and putting a little tension on the tape helps the blade cut through the tape. I used to buy powder in 1 pound quantities, and it came in these cans, and it makes excellent batch feeders. I have a bunch of them, so I have a can for each color. This is clear, and what we're going to do is put that into the room so that I can put the second coat of clear. Cleanup between colors is very easy. All you do is just blow the gun out, blow the hose out, put the bulk feeder can in, and we're ready to go with the next coat. Now I'm going to speed through all this because you've seen it before, and what I'm doing is just putting clear on the intake. It goes on looking white, but when you cure it, it goes to clear and really deepens the color in the intake. Now what I did here is I'm removing the ground and going over it one more time. And what that does is reduce the potential of the static charge, and it reduces the Faraday effect, which makes it easier to get the powder into the corners.
So, what you just saw me put on was clear coat. I know it looked white, but when it cures it'll be clear. And it'll deepen the gray. It'll make it look much nicer. So we'll look at it when it's done. These are done. Cooled.
Now this tape comes off pretty easy and makes a nice, clean, sharp edge. Now we got to take the fittings out that we put in to save the threads. It takes a little bit of effort to get them started. But once you break the powder free, they then come out. Now I had a little bit of buildup of powder down in this recess, so I have a tool made up of a ground down file that I can use to peel this out.
So what do you think? Think it's a little better than what it did? I think it does. We'll get the other one stripped. Perfect.
So I'm using that ground down file, which is very sharp, just to knock the edge off the intake manifold where the carburetor bolts on. Just makes a nice finished
Very nice
product. I learned this trick from engine builder, Matt Shaft, of Performance Specialties. So we're here at the end. You know the drill. If you like, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe.
So, I think we did a good job. What do you think?